Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Our Leeward Community College team includes Ashley Biddle, psychology professor, and Wayde Oshiro and I, Junie Hayashi, are librarians. So what is open pedagogy? There are several definitions, and at its core, open pedagogy is about making learning more engaging and authentic, and within students actively creating and sharing information, not just consuming information. So the past research, the use of open pedagogy and OER is really tied to larger movements in higher education around, affordability and innovation, and how students really look at professors who use OER as more caring, want to help the students, and they see open pedagogy as being more engaging and empowering themselves to learn more. So the current study, in this project, we had a much bigger survey, but there were two open-ended questions in which we asked, why do you think a professor would choose to use OER or not have students purchase a textbook? And then the second question was, why did they think a professor would choose to use assignments in which they created things instead of just taking an exam or writing a paper?
Great. Yeah. And so our sample was pretty indicative of our institution population. So there were 330 students. Nearly 3/4 of them were women. Nearly half were first generation. 40% were traditionally aged. 40% also about Pell eligible. This was a sample of some of the more high achieving students, and that 70% had a GPA over 3.0, and about half of them were in their first year of college. They were incredibly racially diverse, which also represents our institution. They could check more than one box, which is why these don't add up to 100. And they came from a variety of majors for us. So as far as how we analyzed, the three of us reviewed all the answers to these two open-ended questions. We generated several themes from discussion that came out of the answers. Then we would combine similar themes, and then after some in-depth discussion, each of us coded a third of the total data. So for that first question about why a professor would offer a no-cost textbook class, four themes emerged. The first one being this financial cost, right? That textbooks are expensive, students have to spend money that they don't have, that kind of thing. The second theme that emerged was this theme of empathy and care, right? That professors really understand that students are going through hard times. They know that students are struggling, and so they do this to kind of make it easier on students. The third theme, which we were a little bit surprised about, was enrollment. So students talked about how these zero-cost textbooks help students stay in the class, help a professor keep a full class, right? Help people know to sign up for the class, that kind of thing. And then the fourth theme that came out was that there were these great alternatives to paid textbooks that were out there, and that professors didn't necessarily need paid textbooks to teach a class in a wonderfully creative way. So these are direct quotes from students that exemplified these themes. So as far as what results showed, theme 1 and 2 were the most prevalent in our data sample. Financial costs being a little bit more popular than empathy and care, but really similar to that, about 35-40% there. The fact that there were great alternative resources was about a third of the students were saying that, 30%. And then enrollment, much lower, but it was kind of surprising to us, so we left it in there. We know that we as faculty and institution level people talk about student enrollment all the time, but we didn't know that that message was carrying down to the students themselves. So then as far as open pedagogy practices, 5 themes emerged. The first one being that it was more engaging for students, right? They talked about that we're able to be creative and we enjoy this more and that kind of thing. The second theme was that students said, well, in these kinds of projects, students retain the information better and learn better and remember better. Because we're doing this, we're applying our knowledge instead of just taking an exam. The third one was that they would learn practical skills that were applicable to careers outside of school. Um, and then the fourth one, which we debated combining with number two, but we left it as its own for now, was that it was just a better measure of learning, right? That some students are just not good at writing papers or taking exams, or they get too nervous with exams. And so this is a better way for students to demonstrate what they've learned. And the fifth theme, which was also surprising, was that it was more fun for professors to grade, right? When you see the percentages, so the fact that was about 3% students, that may just be my students. I'm not sure, because I often cite that when I introduce these open pedagogy assignments. And cite all the other things too, but right, I say also it's just more fun for me to grade. So I'm not sure if that was just a anomaly or not. We'll see further follow-up studies with wider populations. Maybe we'll get different ones. So the most popular theme was that theme number one, that it was more engaging for students. So nearly 50% said that. Theme 2, 3, and 4 were all about 20%. So about a fifth of the students were saying that. Again, student responses could be coded as more than one of these or none of them. So that's why they don't add up to 100. So our main conclusions were that students, about when they were asked about this zero cost textbook, they most often cited financial reasons or the instructor's empathy for students, and sometimes both. And then when asked why an instructor would choose this open pedagogy, even though we didn't use that term for them, right? But that's what we were describing. Students, overwhelmingly, the most popular answer was that it was more engaging for them, right? And students would find it more interesting. But they also said that students would retain the information better, and that it was a better, more authentic measure of learning, right? Instead of just giving a test, maybe someone's not good at taking tests. So if you have any thoughts on this, or want to collaborate, or want to learn more, feel free to email any of us, all of us, whatever you want to do. And thank you so much for coming to our talk today. These are just some of the references we used, but thank you so much. And we look forward to hearing from anybody who is interested. Bye.